everybody. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to Power Playbooks. Drop in the chat who
Sarita
you
and
are.
Jillene, this is a fun group today.
We're going to have fun. Drop in the chat who you are and where you're from, and make sure you send any chats to everyone so we can all see who's here.
Let's see who we have here. Let's see who I can see that I know. Bridget. Hi, Bridget. Hi, Jesse. Hi, Laurel. Oh my goodness, we have Laurel. That's exciting. Kind of makes my day to have Laurel on here. Tracy. Hi,
Laurel's like,
Tracy. Yolanda, were you just on my last webinar? Boy, poor Yolanda. She's getting a lot of via today.
getting a lot of it.
She's getting a lot of via on webinars today. This
Perfect.
is
Well,
great.
everyone, we have a lot to cover, so I'm going to go ahead and kick it off so we can get started. Welcome, everyone, to Power Playbooks. My name is Sarita Dua. I'm here with my lovely co-host, Via Williams, and we're so excited to have our guest speaker, who Via will introduce here in a second. Power Playbooks is all about sharing what's working, what agents and operators are doing today in this marketplace so that you can take notes and immediately apply them to your business. We have a very fascinating topic today. Some people hate it. Most people are indifferent. I'm one of those people who loves it. So with that, I'm going to kick it off. So Power Playbooks is every second and fourth Wednesday, and we're really excited. I'm going to kick it off now with having Via introduce our guest speaker.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarita. We exist for teams. So if you are a team or you know somebody who's a team, please pass the word on that we're here twice a month. And we also have we're on the Place YouTube channel, so all of our replays are on there. So we have Jillene Snell today. Who Jillene, I don't know your official title at Place. Is it?
I call myself the head of productivity. That's one of the things.
I
I'm
was
also
going to
an
guess that.
executive coach. So yeah.
Yeah, I was going to guess it was head of productivity, because Jillene really drives our agent productivity, right? Agents selling houses, which is the hardest part of having a team. It's what we all struggle with the most. And so I asked her to come on today because selfishly, I wanted some guidance on how to structure a winning team advance and team planning session. And I knew that that's what she was working on and setting up for Place. And so I asked her if she would kind of come on and share with all of you guys, what the playbook is for that. And so I can't think of a better person to do that. She runs one of the top teams in the nation in Bellingham, Washington. Really drives productivity for our 350 plus Place teams and is in the front lines and also, on an aerial view running it on an institutional level. So with that said, we just said, Jillene, the floor is yours. I think she's going to present. I might jump in every once in a while, but really, Jillene, this is your time, and we're excited that you took the time to teach us today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I was so excited about this one. I'm like you, V. I think this week I've presented a lot, been on a lot of Zooms and speaking engagements, but this has been one of the versions that I'm the most excited about. So I'm really happy to be here. And this topic is so timely, is it not? And yeah. I do think over the years, like I've seen such a high level of overcomplication of the business plan and how we engage with our teams on business planning. And, even us at Place, we've made our mistakes, and me running, the Ben Kinney real estate team as one of the top teams have made a lot of mistakes over the years. And we've learned from those mistakes and still learning. Like, we love to get your feedback after you do it with your teams and learn from what you do well. So today I'm going to share really some simple frameworks and tactics that I hope will be simple enough that you're excited and feel able to execute on them. Now, you'll probably take a lot of this content and you'll make it better and customize it to your team. So keep that in mind as we go through. And I'm going to start with sharing my screen here.
Awesome.
Because I do have a bit of a slide deck, but I have lots of good visuals for you. So it should probably be a little bit more dynamic than most slide decks. The first framework that I'd love to share is what I call R3P, which is reflection, prospection, planning, and programming. So when we first look at reflection, I'm going to talk about this individual for a second. Does anyone know Viktor Frankl or have read his book, Man's Search for Meaning? Okay.
No.
So I love the story that was shared about him, how when he was attempting to survive in the concentration camps, he looked around and he realized that his entire existence was always looking backwards and reflecting. Like, I remember when I had food. I remember last Thanksgiving and that huge meal. I remember when I had a warm, cozy bed, and always sort of looking backwards. And what he ended up realizing is that this aspect of reflection was killing them. Of course, we know the concentration camps were really doing that, but he realized that their mindset was also doing that. And from then on, he decided to look forwards and imagine his life surviving the camp and look for lessons every single day and teach those lessons when he got out of the camp later on. What he said is this literally saved his life. I thought that was so neat. And some of us today, like, we struggle in our businesses because we're reflective versus looking forwards. We're struggling with what we're not doing or based on what we had before that we don't have now. So sometimes we become an organization that is perhaps looking too much backwards. Like, I remember when we had a better market, when we had better interest rates, when we had top agents. Anyone ever feel that way? Drop it in the chat if you do. Yeah. And so I do think that can be sometimes the number one thing that we need to adjust when we go into business planning is this mindset. So what is the opposite of reflection? What word comes to mind? It's the next one on our list.
Prospection, Jillene.
Thank you. This is supposed to say prospection, but we're going to pause here, Via, and we're going to talk about reflection being necessary in our first step because we needed to know what got us here. And we've done a lot of good things to get where we are now. So we're going to walk through some tools in the reflection process, and then we're going to dive into looking forward in the prospection process. So in reflection, I want you to take some of these are simple cues, and essentially you're going to set a date with yourself, whether you're an agent, but I think most of you are business owners and team owners. So set a date with yourself. When's the last time y'all got white space in your calendar? Or just sat down and maybe you went to like the local spa and you had a glass of wine and you brought your journal and you brought your laptop and you just had some time to yourself to think about the business, what you want, reflection, and what you've done, reflection, and what you want, prospection. So here's a few cues you can bring to that date with yourself. So first of all, what was the goal that you chose for your team this year or for yourself? Why did you choose that goal? What caused you to choose that goal? Now I want to ask you, how connected to your goal were you? What would you say? You could even rank yourself on a scale of 1 to 10.
You know why I'm muting myself, Jillene? Because I'm taking so many notes. I just want you to know that. This is so good.
I'm actually really excited for your color, Via. So pop in whenever you can.
I will, but I'm taking notes right now.
So what were the distractions that took me away from this number one goal? I think this might be the most jarring question of all, though. If I wasn't a little bit obsessed, focused, and allowed days, weeks, if not months of distraction, was I really connected to the goal? And Via and Sarita, I've thought about that myself this year. Like, if I allowed that much time to slip by, was I really connected enough to the mission? And the reality of it is, as we know, no one's coming to save us. That knight in shining armor is not coming to save us. And we want to repeat really over and over, I am responsible no matter what the outcome is. And that's when we can step into change, right? If we can't change our environment, we can change ourselves.
Well, the number two question is one of the best questions I've ever seen for business planning. And I think it's the reason that most of us will find we did or didn't set a goal, hit a goal, and that looking forward that we won't. It's how connected to this goal am I? And it's such a great, great question.
Mm. Yeah.
I want to emphasize too, like when we do this goal setting, so many times we're just on autopilot. What did we do last year? How much more do we want to do? And not having that connection and just not being as purposeful. You're not bought into from the beginning, and then you're just relying on things to fall into place versus, like you said, being fully responsible for our results. So I love that connectedness piece, and I'm so happy you're emphasizing it.
I love those comments and how that could actually change the way we business plan for the next year, right? We have the opportunity to do something different, and it's like this fresh start, right? This exciting start. So when we are in this reflection process, there are some main metrics that we want to look at for projections, end of year projections for this year. I've compiled what I think are the most important. And some of you are going to say, no, it's missing this. No, it's missing this. But I guarantee you, these main metrics, if you need a simplified business plan, these are the most important ones. It's your agent hires and losses. It's your calls made to recruits. If you don't have that number from your CRM or Brivity, you can estimate like how many calls did I make to recruits on a weekly or monthly basis, number of recruiting appointments. Average active agents means like how many agents on average should I have throughout the year selling real estate full-time? That number is important. Total calls made by my team, total appointments set by my team, listings taken, and total closings. And then here at the bottom, expense reductions and expense add-ons. So this data and end of year projections is going to leave clues for us as to not only like where are we ending the year, but what activity is tying to our results. Was it enough to reach that goal? Now, this is for the agent specifically. We've looked at one for the team, and then we've got end of year agent projections, total net income, closings, average sale price, listings taken, average dials made in CRM monthly, and total appointments set. This is incredible, valuable data.
Can we dial it back? Can you go back one slide for us? Okay. So I guess I'm surprised. And it's not a challenge. It's just like, it's a genuine question because I'm looking at my 2025 goal planning preliminary worksheet that I did just by myself, just kind of starting to think it through, right? And the first thing I have on there is units GCI revenue and units GCI profit, cost of goods sold, and expenses. That's what I have listed, right? In volume. And I find it interesting that's not on here. Like I don't even see units. Let me see. Oh, total closings. So there's total closings. And
the reason
but there's not GCI or volume.
Well, here's how I look at GCI and volume is that it's relative to your market, and your market go up and down. So when, we have equity gains and the appreciation, oftentimes like your GCI and your volume is going to rise, but if your units don't rise, it doesn't mean that you're actually growing to the extent that you want to. And units are
right.
But there is a place, Via, to your point, where in looking forward, we can set those targets.
Okay, got it. I guess it's because for me, it's like it's getting data on the correlation between units and income, which ultimately is really what I'm backing out of, is the income that I want to make for, net income on the team and then income to Via, right? And so it's not a challenge. It's just like, oh, that's interesting. Like it's not even on there,
I think that would be a really, and this is meant to be a deeper dive right here to your point, Via, but I absolutely think that it could be listed and prominent, like your net operating income being one of the most.
But I do like what you're saying. A growing business is a team that's growing in units. And that is the message here. And I think I don't want to get that lost. Like that's an important message that we can grow, actually, to your point, in revenue, GCI, and profit just because our price point's going up, even if our units stay the same. But a business isn't growing if our units are not growing, is kind of what you're trying to say here.
Exactly. And it depends on the team's goals. Sometimes we don't need unit, growth to receive profitability growth. It could be expense reduction. So I think you make a really good point in that on there, Via. The agent projections will be able to use this data to predict the next year and plan for the next year. And that's when we get into looking forward. We've been able to reflect, we've been able to see, like, what was our goal versus actual? What was the activity that got us there, or maybe that didn't get us there? And in prospection, the goal of a CEO is to have that prospection, right? What do I want my future business to look like? And Freud actually said, we're products of our past, but newer behavioral psychology has encouraged us to lean into prospection, which is a concept actually driven by Viktor Frankl himself. So I thought that was really neat. And he said, whatever view you have of your future, that is what is driving your present. Human beings are not products of the past. They're products of the future that they have set in front of themselves. Love this quote by Viktor Frankl. Then when we get into goal setting for the future, for our teams, I'm going to give you the most simplest way of looking at it, and then you can take it and expand on it in your world. So here we have, you're going to see these acronyms, PAP, NAG, and NOI. These are per agent productivity, net agent gain, and then net operating income. And to your point, Via, recently, the net operating income is one of the most important metrics that we want to look at in our teams, because most of you are probably not wanting to run a nonprofit as a real estate team. You probably put in a lot of hours and effort. We want to be able to track that as profit. So these three things are what we want to look at for our 2025 organizational goals. So units sold, which is the per agent productivity piece, net agent gain, or you could focus on number of agents hired. Of course, we want to keep an eye on the net agent gain, and then your net operating income. Via, before we get into some strategies for the actual goal planning, or Sarita, what would you add to these three main organizational goals?
Well, I would just clarify something. NOI is a term that we do use at Place for all of our Place friends here. And NOI is actually not net income. It's slightly different. NOI is using a generalized set of agreed upon expenses, and kind of it's a way to keep everybody using the same definition. So another NOI is a great term to use, or you could just say net income, or you could just say profit. So if you're wondering exactly what is NOI, it's a slightly different term that we use to basically signify profit. So
love that. Now, when we get into the business planning mechanics of, like, how do I outline my business plan for the next year, you might have your own format, and you've probably heard of, like, the GPS. And there's lots of really good business planning formats you can use for your organization. However, if you really want to simplify it and create something that is executable on a monthly basis, something you can really get behind, I would recommend taking these three things and outlining a focus for each one for each month of the year in 2025. So you would say, for per agent productivity and to drive units, what's my January focus as a team? And it could be open houses. Like, maybe your team hasn't quite shifted with the shift, right? And they didn't have to host open houses, or maybe prospect prior to this market. And you really want to drill down on that and get to mastery with your team. Then perhaps January is the open house focused month. Because don't we know that things take time? And if we take on too much throughout the month and throughout the year, it waters down exactly what we're looking to accomplish. We end up becoming mediocre at everything, don't we? Versus mastery in a few things. So this is just one concept. I think me and Sarita are actually seeing this probably for the first time. It's coming to place here shortly. In our rollout of business plan, but to really dial back the focus and simplicity.
Can I
Well,
add
and I
one?
love the seasonality that you're saying. Sorry, Sarita, but I just wanted to throw that in there, that we don't divide the year in 12 on most real estate teams, you know? So I love that you are suggesting doing it by month. That's really great.
And I was just going to add, I love that too. And I was just going to add that for those of us who are newer to the recruiting side, while net agent gain is important, I really like the TAH concept, total agents hired, because it's one thing we can control. If you hire, say, 25 people to end up with X amount at the end, let's say 12, then that 25 is that number you should be focused on. And so I love the fact that although we're looking at net agents, we have to look at that total potentially as well, because that's very actionable.
Sarita, you and I are on the same wavelength, because that is actually my focus when I recruit for my team here, is just total number of agents hired. It's 1 to 2 a month, and I focus on that. And a lot of the other things, and because it's essentially like you're creating a good problem. If you have agents that you need to retain, you'll figure it out, right? You'll partner with the right company, you'll get the right coaching to figure it out. So I love that. Here's the agent version of business planning. And you're welcome to take a screenshot, but I think we're going to also share this slide deck potentially with this group afterwards so that you can.
Yeah, if you guys are registered, we'll share this with you guys.
Okay. Perfect. This will simplify it for the agent in a way that you might not have seen it before. So boiling it down to the units, net income, listings taken, what's their big why? And then for each lead source, what's the activity that I'm going to do to get behind closings for each lead source? This allows for diversification, doesn't it, for the agent? When you think about them being able to add more legs to the stool, you want to see, do they have enough? Like, do they have enough to add the income that is their goal for the next year? And if you look at each one of these sources, and let's just say you attach a monetary value. Jennifer, maybe you attach $25,000 monetary value to each lead source. If you start cutting out one, like, oh, I don't like to do open houses, or, oh, no, I won't do door knocking, that scares me. Or like, nah, FSBOs aren't for me, or circle prospecting is not for me. Look at what that starts to do to the monetary value when you start crossing off each one. If, per se, they were worth $25,000, I'm just picking an arbitrary number. This allows for quite the visual, but also tying it to the activity. Under core database commitments, we have never boiled it down so simply before. But essentially, how many connections do I need to make every single month to my database of all of these lead sources? Then how many appointments do I need to set to result in the closings and income that is my annual goal? So again, setting these goals that are simple, and we'll talk here in a second about how do you cement the relationship to these goals. We'll talk about how do you integrate it into your year as the business owner here in a second. Now, one of the other parts of business planning is, of course, the personal side, one of the most important sides, because why are we doing all of this, right? And each one of us has such a unique driver. It's really fun to like slow down and listen to what the driver is of someone you're partnered with. And their driver is, they might say it's money, but what do they want that money for? What's their life, well, as we call the life plan? And this is their personal goals that relate to their relationship, spiritual health, learning, experiential living, and wealth building. I put that hiking slide in for you, Via. Very
I know. I was like, don't think I didn't notice that.
And so we want our agents to both create their business plan and their life plan prior to your business planning day as a team. So I'm giving you that framework here. What's the number one goal in each one of these areas, in each one of these circles? So you're just going to have them write out their number one goal in each of these areas of their personal life. Again, very simple. Then we get into the planning portion. And so the planning portion is getting set up for the day that you might do business planning. Do y'all do like 1 days, half days, 2 days? What does your retreats look like as a team?
Yeah, I'd be curious on chat what everyone's day
Yeah,
is. Mine's always been
yeah.
morning, but
I've heard a lot of teams do 2 days. I've seen half days. I like the one day. I'm with you, Via. I think the one day is great. This agenda that I'm going to give you in this planning framework is based on a one day. But what I'm hoping it will do is spark some ideas that you might bring to your team. If it's a 2 day or if it's a half day, you can condense it. So there's a lot of options in here. And in fact, if you need anything on a deeper level, you can reach out to me after the call. This is a bit of a surface level because there's so much in here. I'm hoping it will make you feel confident in what your next steps are in planning for your team. So you might be surprised by this. But the first thing that we want to do, and you can add this to a date with yourself, that time where you're reflecting and thinking about your organization and planning, is what we call team vision plus heartfelt vision. So the first thing is, what is your team's vision? Or what is their mission, their vision, their values? Most teams have that. If you don't, they're easy to create. And then you can bring that to your business planning agenda. Because wouldn't you want everything on that day to coincide with what your mission, your vision, and your values are as a team? Now, the MVV is like sort of external facing, right? It's what we talk about with each other and at place. Our mission is to deliver the dream of homeownership everywhere. We talk about that a lot. We center our activities around that a lot. It's in so many of our conversations. But then there's what I call this heartfelt vision. And this is something that, speaking of the heart, has kind of come to me more recently as I've been thinking about my own leadership and how I lead my team and what's behind that. And I have been able to create a world where I am more financially free than ever before. And this opens up a space for me where I can really think about, what am I building? What am I designing? What am I creating in this team, in this business, that really fuels the purpose of my entire life? Because I'll tell you, I spend more time with the people in my office and probably with Via and Sarita than sometimes I do my own family. So this heartfelt personal vision became really important to me. I want to share with you mine, and it's a little intimidating that this will be on YouTube and publicized, but I'll just open it up to all of you. My heartfelt vision is that the Ben Kinney team provides a life path for every agent and their support staff to have endless opportunity, stability, lasting friendships, and financial freedom through wealth building. So this was my personal vision and what I wanted for the team. Now, when I think about it, I think, well, it was me who wanted endless opportunity. And then through my partnership with Ben Kinney in Place, I was able to achieve that, and stability. All of these things were things that I didn't have before that I'm seeking now. And now that I have it, it's my life mission to give that to others. Now, why do I talk about this heartfelt vision? Well, I think it can sort of drive the content that you decide to put into your day of business planning, along with your team's mission, vision, and your values. If you can think about the entire day being centered around those two things, you're going to win. So the mission, vision, values framework, and then your heartfelt vision is more about the experience that you're creating for them. Like, what do you want them to walk away with? And if it were a feeling, how would you describe that feeling? This can help you. Now, here's the fun part. Next slide. I haven't watched this movie in so many years. I don't know if you all have. Braveheart. I think, are they?
It's been coming up a lot lately, though. Ben's been bringing this up again a lot.
Has he? Okay.
Yeah.
I probably stole it from him. So you've heard the conversation of like, it's time to like get in the trenches, paint your face blue, and like go after it, be on the front lines. You've heard it all, right? So, but that's true. Like, what is your face paint color going to be on that day? What are you going to lead your team to do in the next year? And pick like a theme. And that theme could be centered around productivity, potentially. It could be centered around something fun. It could be centered around your mission, vision, values. The one that we chose for Place last year, very simple. This was actually the logo. is we were built for this. So this message showed up in all of our business planning materials. It showed up in our conversations. It just became so fun to center around as a company. And we just chose our new one, by the way, for this year. I don't know. Should I share it? I should share
Yes, I'm dying to hear it. What is it?
So it's simply, quote, all in on my business, all in on place, all in on my relationship, all in on my health, all in on my personal life. Yeah.
So good.
Something, as you can see how simple that is. We don't need to overthink it, but what is your paint color going to be? Now, getting into some of the outlines, so this is more tactical, of course. I'm sharing one that we've provided for a lot of our place folks, and I'll dive minimally into each one, but you can see the framework. What I want you to do if you're having to create this yourself is just pick, whatever categories you really want to focus on. And you can see some examples here, and write out a potential outline, just a draft outline. And once you have that draft outline, you can then start building the content from there, or ripping off and duplicating great content, which is so easy to do. And most of it will actually be in the slide deck for you. So start with the outline.
Oh my God, I just typed that. I said rip off and duplicate, and you said it. We are completely on the same wavelength.
I see that in the chat now. Right. Okay. And if there's something you feel is missing, then just reach out to me and I can.
Well, can I ask a question on that though? Just like looking at that. Are you recommending that we have agents do, so I heard you say pre-work for life plan. Are you recommending that you have them do the pre-work for their business plan as well, so that they come in kind of understanding like what they think their units, that the one sheet you showed us, right? Or is that something that we would work on during the day?
So I'm so glad you brought that up, Via. Like, this is the thing that we have found is the best evolution of business planning. Like the best we've found so far, as far as like the change that we could make to make it more powerful. And it was essentially having the agents create their business plan and their personal life plan before the business planning event. Here's why. Have you ever had one of these events? Y'all are together and there's groups and y'all are setting your goals, and agent A is next to agent B, and agent A is like, I'm going to choose 100 dials or 100 closings. And the other agent's like, well, I can't do less than that, right? Or like Ryan's going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, or Via's going to do 29 out of 29. And they're like, well, I have to do 29 out of 29 too. There's a kind of peer pressure that comes along with the selection of goals when you're doing it in a group setting. So what we recommend is the agent does the business plan and the life plan first, but then we have, as their leader or coach, have a sit down with them prior to the event and help them just vet it. Like, are these numbers realistic? How's this going to work for you? Drill down on at what they've selected, get excited for them, make adjustments. Then they'll take, it's almost like a second draft. They'll take that second draft to the day of business planning. And that's where we'll get to go deeper together to create a sense of deepening of those goals and connection. Yeah, really good point. And
Thank you.
More of that here too in a second. So coffee and conversation is a suggested opener. And that is just creating some sort of icebreaker, having cue cards for your team that you can hand out that can spark really great conversation. You essentially just want to get people off of their cell phones and ready to connect. I really love this one. If your team doesn't do vision boards, you could have them share personal goals that have been achieved. Like if someone had a goal of buying an investment property and they did, you might talk to them before the event and say, hey, I know you had this as a personal goal this year. During our vision board review, would you be willing to share that? Or maybe even share a picture of the before and after. It can kind of be like show and tell for your team. And you're starting off with something really fun and positive and uplifting and like, hey, look, when people are partnered with this company and this team, they reach their personal goals. Like, look at this. Here are the examples. I know one of the agents on our team reached a net worth of $1 million this year. So you can imagine that would probably be part of this conversation. That's a huge milestone.
Yeah. We don't do vision boards as a team. They're great. I've done them before. Do you recommend digital ones like, apps and whatnot? Or do you recommend actually like, the tag board with the magazine thing?
So you could do both via, like, if you didn't have the printed ones, like mine is so simple right here. I do have a print, a hard copy one. We do a slide deck. I didn't want to overcomplicate it for today, of course. But we have a slide deck that is essentially the cue slide on the screen in front of the team. And within that slide deck, you could add pictures of like that investment property. Here's one that isn't vision board related, but these are demonstrating like some 5-star reviews for our team members.
Mm-hmm.
So you could absolutely put like some visuals into a slide deck and make it visual. I love that. Yeah. So next on the agenda would be to do an overview and walk the team through the agenda for the day. Talk about mindset and what your expectations might be, like bathroom breaks, when they can grab their phones, not grabbing their phones, all of those things. You really want to set the tone for success. This is a really important part. And
Jillene, how do you get them to focus 9 to 3 without grabbing their phones? I mean, I'm being serious. Like,
put them in a basket.
It's a long day and we're so addicted, all of us. And so obviously you have breaks and so forth, but I mean, no matter how sexy you make the topic, it just seems like we're competing and, they're constantly distracted. So yeah, like, do you actually put them in a basket? Do you have an issue? They're going to say, my client needs me. I have to be connected. So just curious if it's been an issue for you.
Good question. I like the suggestions in the chat and by both of you. I think it's the one-on-one conversation leading up to the day that's most important. And saying like, hey, this is a really special day for our team. Can you ensure that you don't plan appointments that day, that you can unplug and turn your phone off? Like, can we be on the same wavelength there? And I promise you it'd be powerful. And by the way, what feedback do you have to make it more powerful? I think a fun thing to do would be, like you suggested, a basket, and have them put the cell phones in the basket. For each person who left the cell phone there for an hour, you could give them like a drawing, like a raffle ticket for a drawing or something, and make it fun.
Well, and the other thing, I love that Sarita asked that because it's real. Like that's reality, right? We announced our team advance 2 days ago, Monday, at our team meeting. And, part of it is when you have it. Like we said, hey, we're going to have it the Thursday before Thanksgiving because we know that that's a slower time of year and that all of you guys who are going to travel won't leave until at least the next day or that weekend. So, part of it, I think, is when you have it. Like if you have it, you're not going to have a team advance like in spring market. Like if your agents are so busy with transactions the week before Thanksgiving or whatnot, that's kind of a good problem to have. But yeah, there's some coaching there. That's a tough one.
We set a date in advance, and then we sent out the calendar invites to the entire team to block off the whole day. So it's been on their calendars for weeks already. That can sometimes help because if they're looking and planning forward to take vacations or time off, they can see that it falls on that day. Now, here's where you're going to have to sort of get creative in your own space, which is a team review and state of the company, one of the next parts of the agenda. So review your own mission, your vision, your values, and then look at how did we accomplish it? How did we strive towards it? How do we demonstrate it? Because again, you want this day to really be centered around this. Here's one example, and then I'd love to hear from all of you. Like, where did our business come from this year? What percentage came from Sphere, repeat business, client referral? You can also say like, hey, we're projected to close or help X number of families this year, that we got this many 5-star reviews. There's so much that you can do when you do. Essentially, this is a mini state of the company leading up to the end of the year. Ladies, what would you add as something that you would review in this mini state of the company?
Well, we have this great coach. Her name's Jillene. And my team, my brother and I are partners. We met with Jillene last week. And so our team meeting 2 days ago was directly from that meeting. And it was really fun. I go, okay, what is everybody's guess about the average number of dials it takes per closing at place? And they all guessed, and I had these little gold stars. It was really dorky. And we went around. And then I said, okay, what do you think the average number of dials for via real estate is? And then we all went around, and then I told him the real number. And then I said, okay, let's talk about contacts. How many conversations on average at place do you think it takes? What about our team? And we went through the whole thing. And I asked for ahas and takeaways. And, the basic gist of it is it was way more than they thought. And so I was like, so for all of you guys who think you're putting in the work and you're feeling really bad that you're not getting results, there is a direct correlation between your activity and the results you want. And so we have to learn the math, and we have to get motivated to plug that math into our CRM, right? Which in our case is Brivity. And so I would say that's probably what is going to be more the theme of this is understanding the math and gamifying it and having fun with it, and making sure that they get their own math before they even go into the pre-work business planning. So I would add that.
And then Jillene, the only other thing I would add, if it's something that's important to your team, is reviews. For us, we spend a lot of energy getting reviews, and the effort, especially our operations team, the effort they make to do reviews. I love to do that reflection of like how, where were we at the beginning of the year, where are we now? Because what you focus on expands. And if they focus on it all year and then we don't acknowledge the progress we've made, I feel like that diminishes some of their efforts.
That's so good.
So good.
I think reviews are a big, in like such a worthwhile focus for teams in this next year. I think that's a really fantastic point.
Whether it's reviews or even referrals given, like whatever's important to your team, if you're asking people to do it throughout the year, we should definitely include it in the metrics that we look at.
And it's just maybe even celebrating specific agents for like, hey, this person got the most reviews with 20, but here's all the other agents that also got 5-star reviews, and kudos to all of you. I mean, look at the amazing team of people we have and the service we provide. It's representative in these 5-star reviews. Yeah. Casting the vision is a little bit, Via, you sort of touched on it when you said like, hey, this is going to be a part of our team's focus next year, is understanding some of the things that you mentioned, and how will we accomplish our mission? How can we better strive towards our vision and demonstrate our values? Here's one mission example. So I actually don't know if this was for this year. It might have been for 2023, but it was a CRM adoption for our CRM Brivity. And it was increasing conversion by a certain percentage. And this is kind of when Brivity was coming out with new features too. So now we have all of this, but utilization of Brivity Dialer in each lead source time block as a top agent to leverage and increase contact ratio. Ensuring every lead has a listing or market report. And all of these things where we said like, here's the percentage increase that we want to have in this area. So if it were reviews, you could say, hey, we're at 100 reviews, we want 100% increase. So we want to reach 200 in 2025. And then you can say, we're going to do this by, and then you bullet point, here's how we're going to accomplish this together and achieve that mission. So again, this is just one example. When I look at some of our other examples, I know I'm kind of getting off script here, but you could see like we chose open houses as our biggest lead source opportunity. And this was back in 2023. And so we made that part of our organizational goal, and we outlined exactly how we were going to do it and what it was going to do for us. Mortgage adoption for us was huge, like going from 15% to 55%. This was a couple of years ago as well. So along with the mission was like what our giving goals were as a team. What were we going to give? What did we give? And again, you can see that this is surrounding our mission and our vision, our values. So with the values exercise, whatever your values are as a team, even if you only have one, maybe not 3 or 5, You can use this as a group exercise. So this would be the next exercise in this flow that we're talking about today. And we'll review the agenda at the end again. We can do this together, or we can do it solo within our business planning day, where we will talk about how we can better demonstrate our values as a team, how we can grow in that second value or demonstrate that third value in 2024. So here's what I find most valuable from this as a leader is let's just say you have a culture of showing up, and maybe it's 8:30 in the morning on Monday, and that's your culture, or Monday through Thursday, or whatever it is. And you get feedback from the team that says, I think we can do better as a team by showing up. Or we could do better as a team by delivering on this, or using, asking for referrals more. Or we'll get feedback from people around us in this values exercise. We'll sort of peel back the onion layers and open the curtain to where we can become a better leader. And where, even creating a vulnerable space for our team to open up about what they could be better about and serve in this environment of teamwork. And then it becomes a really great group discussion during that business planning day. You can say, hey, Via, what did you write? Sarita, what did you come up with? Let's talk about that together.
So is that more, so as a team, we will demonstrate value. Is that, for me as the team leader, to present value so that an agent comes and stays? Or is it values that we're working on with our agents, to your point of showing up?
So this is our values.
Okay, so it's that values. Okay.
Yeah. And so we essentially would say, okay, well, value number 1 is grit. Value number 2 is leader, results, only leaders, right, and so on. And so we did it 2 ways. We said, well, how did I demonstrate grit? And then how can I better demonstrate grit? And that became the solo exercise. Then we do a group table discussion, and then an open discussion as each table would kind of share what they came up with.
Perfect. Yeah.
I was trying to kind of scale it back, but I think that did need clarity. Thank you.
No, it was good.
Jillene, can I take you on a curveball real quick, and you can answer later if it's coming? It's October 9th. What date is sort of too late to do this, and what date is ideal?
I would say a lot of team owners, they want to do business planning soon enough to be able to get their agents in the habit and the cadence of whatever activities required to reach their goal. And most people say it's a lagging measure of 3 months. And so that's why most people do have it 3 months before the end of the year. But here's what I found is that so many people lose relationship to their goal in the 3 months. And so here at Place, we used to do it, I think, back in October. I know teams have done it even sooner. I would say it's too late probably after Thanksgiving, because then everyone's in full holiday mode.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good question.
I don't know. I've done it plenty of times in December, though. I hear you. I do hear you, because I think that when you do it too early, they blow the rest of the year off. That's kind of what I find. They're so focused on next year that, I don't know.
Or they fizzle. They fizzle.
I love what Jillene said about, relationship with their goals. Because my whole thing with it is that their activities shouldn't change that much for lack of planning or for having the planning. It's more about keeping them engaged and excited about the following year. Because I've done mine a lot in December.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think taking action, Via, to your point,
just doing it at all. Yeah.
At all is fantastic.
And doing that prep work, right? I mean, we could all do it tomorrow, but to actually have them do the agent work and the life plan and maybe check in with them ahead of time makes it clear that we do need to prep a little bit. And so anytime between now and the end of the year with that prep baked in.
Mm-hmm. I think I probably do it too late. Like I've always been late on this for some reason. I don't know why. Like I'm so focused on the year and finishing it out. I think maybe that's not good or bad, but it hasn't been bad. Like most of the time I've done it honestly in December. So
Well,
I
then
don't
it
know.
becomes a holiday celebration too.
It could, like you could,
We've done that before many
yeah.
times actually. Yeah.
We do the vision board event as a holiday celebration.
It's fun too. I like that.
Business planning in November, and then December is the vision board creation. So you're kind of keeping the momentum of your goals
I like
throughout
that.
the year. So we just walked through the values exercise, and then here's the business planning exercise. And then, by the way, we'll go take a peek, which maybe we should just do now. I think it's important to look at this and say, okay, we start with coffee and conversation with the team, vision board review, personal goal review, overview of agenda, mindset, and expectations, team review and cast vision, values exercise, business plan exercise. So that's where we are now. And again, this is easily customizable for what your team's needs are. When we get to the business plan exercise, I think you'll see here in a second why we want our people, in part, to create their business plans before they arrive, before they walk through the doors of your business planning event. And that's because this is one of the most important pieces where sometimes I actually curate which team member is going to be spending 30 minutes or an hour with each team member, by the way. I think sometimes that does take a little bit of finessing to make sure they're partnered. You don't want necessarily a top agent partnered with a brand new agent if it's really not going to serve the top agent. So you just want to kind of look at who they're partnered with, but this is meant to be a person partnership. And then Sarita, I would ask you, I would say, hey, tell me about your number one business goal that you've set for yourself. Sarita, what caused you to decide on this as your primary goal? And you might share, and then I'd say, well, Sarita, are there any doubts that come to mind about that goal? If you reached only 50% of it, would you be satisfied? Tell me 50% is fine.
Yeah, I guess. I think I'd be okay with 50%.
You would be. Okay. So that's when I would probably take questions different and say, well, why are you choosing a goal that is 100% greater? Like what's causing you to go 100% greater?
I'm listening to you and I'm thinking about a seller at this listing appointment when we're setting the price. How would you feel if you got that number? How would you feel if you didn't get that number? It's really a great sensitivity analysis, right? On how true is that goal and how much did they inflate it?
Yeah. And what we hope is like at this point, they have draft number 2, right? They've met with you or the coach already. They've done it with themselves in a date with themselves, met with coach, and now they're here. So they should have a pretty good set of goals, but now we're going to drill down. And then we'll talk about like, what activity do you have the most clarity on? And GPA, by the way, stands for goals, priorities, and activities. What surprised you about your core database commitments? We looked at those in the business plan. What are you most excited about under growth? So you can see what these questions could do for someone like Sarita, right? Being asked the questions, will that help her cement the relationship to her goal? But how will it help me in that relationship with Sarita? We'll probably have a stronger bond. I'm going to become a huge advocate of Sarita's goals because I know why she chose them. It's going to create a new level of team culture through this exercise. So it goes both ways, right? And that's why I say sometimes it's important to finesse who's partnered with who, because you're going to reverse it then. And Sarita would ask me, well, Jillene, why did you choose that as your number one goal? Why is it important to you? What caused you to choose it? What excuses or challenges are you not willing to tolerate in this next year? What did you not feel you didn't do well? What did you feel you did well? There's a lot of good questions here. You can see that this is 1 year off in the screenshot, but we'd be planning, of course, for 2025. Now, this is the business plan. And from the business plan, it goes into the health and wealth section. And I'm just going to give a few quick tools that here at Place we provide for free that you can tap into anytime. So if you go to winmakegive.com, you can pull up the 15-point plan, and you can use this as your basis for your health conversation. I'm not going to dive into what that looks like specifically in conversation with the team, because we have a few other things to share here. And then we have the Wealth series. So Ben Kinney offers this Wealth series free to anyone who signs up for it on winmakegive.com. And you can download the content and use some of the content in the PDFs and the workbooks as portions of your wealth conversation with your team. Have you ladies ever inserted like a wealth section into your business planning? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Did you find it well received as well?
Oh, they love it. Yeah. I don't know that I would do one of these days without some element anyway in there, because it helps tie them. Otherwise, it's a little bit of an arbitrary amount, and so I think that it helps hone in, like if it's going to be like 90,000 a year that they need to do everything they want and go to the trip to Maui every year, and we can show them what 120, 130,000 can do by showing them that that could be a down payment, or what that could do using calculators and whatnot. It's really powerful.
I'm on the other end, Jillene, in that I haven't done it because I overthought it at the beginning of thinking, well, everyone's on a different continuum on where they're at with wealth. But now I'm realizing that's exactly the answer. Like, just have the conversation, and wherever they are, keep moving them forward. And like Via said, if you tie them, as you part of your big why, what would their life look like if they achieved their number and then had more left over? Like, would it be to have more fun, to invest more, to grow, to have, whatever they're going to do with that extra money definitely gets them more committed. So I'm now rethinking, like, it's a great topic, as opposed to thinking like, oh, well, not everyone's going to relate to this based on where they're at.
One thing I would say, Sarita, on that, and just everybody here, as leaders, I think one of the most important things we can do is when we're having those one-on-ones, with our agents, in this format, which I love, it's in the pre-work leading up to it. A lot of them say to us, hey, I want to buy a house, right? I either want to buy my first house or I want to buy an investment property. And if you can take the time with them to work out the math, okay, well, where, you want to buy a house for yourself, great. Where would you want to be? It would be here. Okay, great. And so, we can assume that it's going to be 10% down payment. And so in that case, it's going to be, $80,000 that you're going to need. I'm in Seattle. It's really expensive here. So $80,000, have you calculated that out? What do you think your partner can bring to the table? And really breaking that down and getting so specific. When you have that knowledge and that data and that conversation, you can use that throughout the year and you're coaching with them to really help tie them to the goal, which, going back to your first slide, which is why I love that second question so much. Because it's like, how connected are they? I don't know. How connected are they to wanting that first house?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is so powerful. So powerful. So I feel like it's unanimous that these wealth building conversations are truly a great part of our business planning process. And whether it's maybe one-on-one in a conversation beforehand and looking at, like, well, how did you decide that income goal? Let's talk about it. There are a lot of tools on WinMakeGive that you can download in order to help your agents calculate the number that they need to have for both, living expenses, and then the cushion, and then the dream. Yeah. So as we wrap up here, just have a couple more slides. The next exercise is a big why exercise. And it's essentially saying, hey, I want to reach, 20 units next year because I want to earn 200,000. And then you would just keep drilling into that. I want to earn 200,000 because I want to feel financial security. Well, I want to feel financial security because, and this is such a cool exercise as a team, by the way. And you do it solo, and then you come together for conversation and ahas. So you can copy and paste right from this slide. By the way, I intended it to be that way as you design your own business planning day. The last part is programming. And for sake of time, I'm just going to focus on one particular slide, which is called Your Leadership System for Helping Integrate Goal Setting All Year Long. And this is meant for you to add your own context and content. And because these are just a few things, but I believe that they're underrated. And when implemented as a system, like I always think, hey, if I don't have a system as a leader, I'm probably going to fail or I'm going to forget. And forgetting is often failing. So for me, I have to have a system so I don't forget, so I don't fail. So number one, know each agent partner's main metrics. And we looked at those together. And truly it boils down to number of calls or contacts, open houses hosted, appointments set. Like those are three of the main ones. And then be aware of their number one most meaningful personal goal. Like if they do want to buy a house, you're aware of that for every member of the team, including staff. Now, use the CRM. Brivity displays our data beautifully. So we have leaderboards and it displays it beautifully, but you want that to be on display nearly every business day. So people can see, am I on track? Weekly one-on-ones. Here's where I find it's a personal leadership style, but don't get too far into like the deepness of the coaching and becoming the next Brendan Burchard, who's awesome at coaching. Like if you haven't mastered the foundation of the activity that's going to get them to the units and the income and the result, like really make sure that foundation is mastered, but let them know like, hey, Via, I want to talk for like a few minutes on these main metrics, but then I want to talk about some of the mindset. But eventually we won't even need to do this because it's going to become a habit for you. Send out those end of week reports displaying the goal versus the actual, a monthly review of the business plan and adjust as needed so that they do pick up that business plan again and they realize, hey, this is a working, breathing document and I can adjust as I go throughout the year. They'll be a lot more likely to pick it up again and then celebrate those daily wins.
Thank you so much, Jillene. That is so good.
Yeah, this is so
We're going
good.
to share this with everybody.
The slides and the replay, it's something that I'm going to go back, watch again, and take even more detailed notes. I'm so excited though, because honestly, the prospect of business planning has been intimidating to me, and now I can plug and play. And so I really appreciate you doing all this legwork so that we can go faster and further with these tools in place. So I appreciate you, Jillene. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was a fun conversation.
Thanks, everybody.